My phone screen lit up. It was Chloe Evans's Instagram feed. A photo of the two of them, her head resting against some stranger's chest. A smile on her face, so bright I'd never seen it on her before. The caption read, "Hard launch with my whole world." I stared at the words, a vice tightening around my chest. I'd been in love with her for 2 years. I deleted her number, blocked her on everything, and dragged myself out of bed. I walked to the liquor store and drank myself into oblivion. A few days later, I was hiding out in a quiet corner of the library when Sophia Miller, the freshman who became a campus legend the second she stepped on campus, sat down right across from me. When I was picking at leftovers in the dining hall, she brought her tray over and sat next to me. She was brilliant, the kind of girl every guy wanted to ask out. And I was a pathetic mess, fresh off a brutal rejection I hadn't even had the guts to earn. It wasn't until she found me in my usual basketball court, holding up a faded Pikachu keychain, her eyes red, that it all clicked. "Liam," she asked, her voice trembling, "do you remember this? From 6 years ago." My world tilted on its axis. It turned out that while I was chasing a shadow, I'd lost track of my own son. That smile in Chloe's Instagram post was a knife twisting in my gut. I didn't know the guy, but the way their hands were intertwined burned itself onto the back of my eyelids. I'm Liam Carter, a junior in the computer science program at Northwood University. I've been into Chloe since freshman year. For 2 years, my world had quietly revolved around her. My phone's camera roll was a shrine to her. I knew she loved the ramen place by the Westgate, always ordered the tonkatsu broth, whole the scallions. I knew she had no classes on Tuesday afternoons and always studied by the big bay windows in the library. I thought if I just waited long enough, my chance would come. Now it was gone. "Dude," Kevin, my roommate, whistled from his desk. He glanced at his phone. "Whoa, Liam, your girl. She's taken." I didn't answer. I just killed my screen, climbed into my bunk, and pulled the covers over my head. In the darkness, I could feel my own heart breaking. Turns out, when a 2-year crush dies, it doesn't even make a sound. For the next few days, I was a ghost. I skipped classes. I didn't eat. I just lay in bed. My roommates tried to talk to me, one by one, and each got to get lost for their trouble. I knew they meant well, but I just wanted to be left alone to rot. That afternoon, the sky was a bruised purple, rumbling with distant thunder. I was wandering campus in just a hoodie, the cold wind finding its way down my collar. I wanted it to rain. I wanted to catch pneumonia, to let a physical sickness burn away the ache in my soul. The rain came suddenly, fat drops splattering on the pavement. Students around me shrieked and ran for cover. I just stopped, tilted my face to the sky, and closed my eyes, letting the icy water wash over me. It was cold, a deep, bone-aching cold, but the hole inside me just felt bigger. Just as I was about to go numb, the rain on my head stopped. I opened my eyes. A pale blue umbrella was hovering over me, water tracing silver lines down its spokes. I turned and saw who was holding it. A girl, tall and slender in a simple white sundress, her long, dark hair plastered to her shoulders. A few wet strands clung to her face. I recognized her, Sophia Miller, the freshman whose candid photo from orientation week went viral on the Northwood Confessions page. Law student, rumored to have the highest entrance scores in her entire program. Every guy on campus was talking about her. What was she doing here? Holding an umbrella for me? My throat was sandpaper. The words I managed to force out were like shards of ice. "I don't need your pity." Sophia didn't say anything. She just watched me, her dark eyes reflecting my own miserable state. The rain fell harder, drumming a frantic rhythm on the umbrella. We were the only 2 people left out here, standing in an awkward silence, so thick I could barely breathe. I felt like a clown, my whole pathetic life on display for her. "Take it," she finally said, her voice cool and clear. She pressed the handle in my hand. My fingers were numb with cold, but I closed them around it automatically. The plastic still held the warmth of her hand. I froze for a second. In that moment, Sophia let go and ran, disappearing into the downpour. Her white dress was soaked through in an instant, clinging to her frame. She moved fast, without a single look back, vanishing around the corner of the humanities building. I stood there alone, clutching a light blue umbrella that smelled faintly of vanilla and rain. The wind whipped at me, and I shivered, the cold finally snapping me back to reality. This was insane. The most sought-after girl on campus had just given me, a heartbroken loser, her umbrella and run off into a storm. Why? I never returned the pale blue umbrella. Not because I didn't want to, but because I started avoiding her. I shoved it into the back of my closet and tried to pretend that afternoon never happened. I tried to get my life back on track, but the name Sophia Miller started popping up everywhere. After a week of wallowing, my roommates finally dragged me to the library. I found the most isolated desk in the back corner, but just as I sat down, the chair opposite me scraped against the floor. It was Sophia. She set down a stack of thick-locked textbooks and opened one, not even glancing at me. The entire library was practically empty. Why did she have to sit right here? I was on edge the entire time, unable to read a single word. The next day, I went to the hub for dinner. To avoid people, I waited until the evening rush was over, hiding with my tray in a corner booth. I'd barely taken 2 bites when a tray clattered onto the table next to mine. I glanced over. Sophia again. She ate quietly, a stark contrast to me, shoveling food in like I hadn't seen a meal in a week. I could feel stray glances from around the dining hall, and my skin started to crawl. I scarfed down the rest of my food and practically ran out of there. The next few days were the same. The track, the campus coffee shop, even the line at the Print Center. I kept bumping into her. Once is a coincidence. Twice is fate. But over and over, it was driving me crazy. What did she want? Did she feel sorry for me? Was I her charity case? I didn't need saving. That afternoon, heading back to my dorm, I ran into 2 of Chloe's roommates at the entrance. They saw me, exchanged a look, and one of them, Tiffany, smirked. Well, if it isn't Liam, haven't seen you in a while. You look terrible. A little heartbroken, are we? The other one giggled. Tiff, be nice. He's the loyal type. Not like some people we know, who change boyfriends faster than they change clothes. Their laughter was sharp and grating. I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms, unable to say a word. They were right. I was a joke. A coward who couldn't even tell a girl he liked her. Talking about people behind their backs doesn't make you sound any classier. A cool female voice came from behind me. I whipped around and saw Sophia, a stack of books in her arms. Tiffany's smile froze on her face. Who are you? This has nothing to do with you. I'm his friend. Sophia stepped forward to stand beside me, meeting their glares head on. And even if I were a stranger, I'd still have the right to call out such trashy behavior. She paused, a flicker of a smirk on her lips. Or maybe you're just jealous that other people can be happy, so you have to find some pathetic sense of self-worth by tearing down someone you see as a loser? Her voice was quiet, but every word was a scalpel. Tiffany's face turned beet red. She stammered for a moment, unable to form a comeback, and finally just shot me a death glare before dragging her friend away. The world was quiet again. I looked at Sophia, standing next to me, a storm of emotions churning inside. This was the second time she'd come to my rescue. Thanks. I managed my voice hoarse. Don't mention it, she said, her expression neutral. I just can't stand noisy flies. The awkward silence descended again. To break it, and to thank her properly, I heard myself ask, Hey, can I buy you dinner? Sophia looked at me for a long moment, then actually nodded. Okay. We went to Hub. I told her to order first, and she walked right up to the hot food station. Hi, she said to the server. Could I get the beef stroganoff? Extra sour cream, and no mushrooms, please. My heart stopped. Beef stroganoff. Extra sour cream. No mushrooms. That was my order. My mom's specialty. The exact way I'd eaten it my entire life. The only people who knew that were me and my mom. How could she possibly know? How did you? I started, then cut myself off, feeling like I was being weird. I swallowed the words back down. Sophia didn't seem to notice my shock. She found a table and sat down, asking calmly, What's wrong? Nothing. I hid the turmoil inside and sat across from her. I couldn't focus on my food. I watched her out of the corner of my eye. When she ate the stroganoff, she'd carefully eat the beef and noodles, leaving the little bits of onion. Another habit that was precisely like mine. A coincidence? Could there really be this many coincidences in the world? From that day on, a rumor started spreading across campus. Liam Carter, the SADSAC CS major, was dating Sophia Miller, the untouchable freshman law prodigy. It started with a blurry photo someone snapped of us eating in the hub, followed by an eyewitness account of her shutting down Tiffany. The posts on the Northwood Confessions page were wild. Holy shit. Who is this Liam Carter guy? How did he pull Sophia Miller? I heard he was super depressed after his crush got a BF. Do goddesses have a thing for fixer-uppers? No way. This can't be real. He must have worn her down. My Sophia would never fall for a guy like that. Suddenly, I was public enemy number one. Walking across the quad felt like running a gauntlet of glares. Kevin slid up to me, phone in hand, a sly grin on his face. Liam, my man, playing it close to the chest, huh? I was wondering why you suddenly snapped out of it. You found a new muse. And not just any muse, the queen of the whole campus. I wave him away, annoyed. Shut up. It's not like that. But even as I denied it, my life had changed. At the very least, I was too busy dealing with all this sudden, unwanted attention to think about Chloe. Friday afternoon was the department basketball game, our CS class against software engineering. I wasn't planning on playing, but our starting point guard got food poisoning and the captain basically dragged me onto the court. I hadn't touched a ball in weeks. My hands felt clumsy and I turned it over a couple of times right away. We fell behind fast. One of the guys on their team, a tall forward, seemed to know who I was. He got on my face after a play, a smug look on his. Carter, head's not in the game, is it? Heard you're getting cozy with that freshman from the law school. What? Chloe Evans didn't work out, so you moved on to the next target. Something inside me snapped. I just stared him down, my blood boiling. Just then, a clear voice cut through the noise of the gym. Go, Liam. You got this. I looked toward the sound, and my eyes found her immediately in the crowded bleachers. Sophia. She was standing on the sideline, a bottle of water in her hand, looking right at me. In that instant, the entire gym went silent. A surge of energy rushed through me, washing away all the frustration and self-pity. I took a deep breath and shot the guy who'd been taunting me a cold smile. Worry about yourself, man. For the rest of the game, I was a different person. Steals, fast breaks, crossovers, pull-up jumpers. The ball kept finding the net, and after every single basket, I could hear Sophia cheering for me. For her. The thought popped into my head and startled me. When the final buzzer sounded, we'd won by 3. I was drenched in sweat, completely exhausted, but I felt clearer and lighter than I had in months. My teammates swarmed me, slapping my back and pulling me into a sweaty huddle. I laughed and pushed them off, my gaze scanning the crowd until it landed on Sophia. She was watching me, a small smile on her face. When I walked over, she twisted the cap off the water bottle and handed it to me. I glanced at the label. It was the brand of smart water I always drank. What happened to your hand? She asked suddenly, pointing. I looked down and saw a long scratch across my knuckles, beaded with blood. I must have gotten it diving for a loose ball. It's nothing, I said, shrugging it off. But Sophia frowned, pulling a Band-Aid from her purse. She took my hand gently and carefully applied it over the cut. Her fingers were cool against my hot skin, sending a shiver up my arm. I watched her, head bowed in concentration, and felt something in a locked-away corner of my heart stir. Over the weekend, on a whim, I asked Sophia to study with me at the library. I told myself I just needed to focus, and it was a good chance to finally give back her umbrella. We sat our usual spot by the window, sunlight streaming in. She was completely absorbed in her book, her brow furrowed in concentration. I, on the other hand, couldn't read a word. All I could picture was her putting that Band-Aid on my hand. Why are you staring at me? Sophia looked up suddenly, her eyes catching mine before I could look away. I wasn't, I stammered, my face growing hot. The song you were humming. It sounded familiar. She had been, just under her breath. An old nursery rhyme I hadn't heard in years. Oh, really? Her voice was even, but I saw something flicker in her eyes. I pushed down the strange feeling and pulled the pale blue umbrella from my bag, sliding it across the table. Here, this is yours. And thanks for that day. Sophia looked at the umbrella, but didn't take it. Instead, she asked me a completely unrelated question. Liam, do you like Pikachu? I blinked. Huh? Yeah, I guess. I did when I was a kid. Why was she asking that? She didn't say anything else. She just reached into the side pocket of her backpack and pulled something out. It was a keychain, a little yellow, chubby plastic figure, faded and worn from years of use. A Pikachu. The moment I saw it, A roar went through my head. That keychain! I stared at it, my heart hammering against my ribs. 6 years ago, I was in 8th grade. A new family moved in next door. They had a daughter, for years younger than me, who always wore pigtails and followed me around like a shy little shadow. What was her name? The little girl loved Pikachu. For my birthday, my mom got me a pair of Pikachu keychains. I thought they were childish and gave one to her. Her eyes lit up like Christmas morning. She clutched it like it was treasure. Not long after, her family moved away for a job transfer. I never saw her again. The little girl in the pink dress. The little girl who picked the onions out of her beef stroganoff. The little girl who was always off-key when I tried to teach her that nursery rhyme. 100 fuzzy memories sharpened in a focus, all of them pointing to the girl sitting across from me. My breathing grew shallow. My voice shook with disbelief. You. I pointed from the keychain to her face, a wild, impossible, yet singular possibility forming in my mind. Where did you get that? The words came out like an accusation. Sophia's eyes welled up with tears. She clutched the little plastic figure, looked up at me with eyes that were suddenly, painfully familiar, and in a small, wounded voice, used a name I hadn't heard in 6 years. Liam, she said, her voice thick with emotion. It's me. Sophie. Sophie. The name detonated in my mind. I stared at her tear-filled eyes, at the faded Pikachu in her hand, my brain a complete blank. Sophia. Sophie. Sophie Miller. The scrawny little kid with the pigtails who used to follow me around, calling me Liam. How was that possible? Could 6 years change a person that much? I couldn't connect the memory of that shy, skinny little girl with a poised, beautiful woman sitting in front of me. But the Pikachu keychain, the weirdly specific way she ate stroganoff, the nursery rhyme, all the evidence pointed to one impossible fact. She was telling the truth. You're really Sophie? I asked, my voice cracking. Sophia nodded hard, a tear finally breaking free and tracing a path down her cheek. She didn't sob, just cried silently, looking exactly like she used to when some kid on the block had been mean to her, and she'd come running to find me. My heart clenched. A tidal wave of guilt and regret crashed over me. I had forgotten her. I had completely and totally forgotten the little girl who had followed me like a shadow, the girl whose entire world had once seemed to be her next-door neighbor. While I was busy torturing myself over someone else, she had quietly come back into my life, carrying a piece of our shared past, and I treated her like a complete stranger. I'm sorry. My throat was tight. Of all the things I wanted to say, that was all that came out. Sophie, I'm so sorry. I didn't recognize you. Sophia shook her head, scrubbing at her tears with the back of her hand. She tried to smile, but it looked more painful than a frown. It's okay, Liam. I've changed a lot. It's normal that you didn't know it was me. Her forgiveness only made the guilt worse. When did you? I struggled to find the words. When did you move back? After I graduated high school. My parents got transferred back here. She looked down, fiddling with the Pikachu keychain. When I was applying colleges, I only applied to Northwood. Only applied to Northwood. My heart felt like it had been punched. She had come here for me. The realization was both staggering and terrifying. We talked for a long time that afternoon. She told me about the last 6 years, about how hard she'd studied in high school. She told me how she'd found out what brand of water I drank, how she'd seen me get cut during the basketball game. It turned out, from the very first day of the semester, she had been watching over me. She had been collecting bits and pieces of my life, just like she used to collect the candy wrappers I'd give her. And I had been completely oblivious. When it was time to leave, I insisted on walking her back to her dorm. Strolling under the sycamore trees lining the campus walk. Watching her, it still felt unreal. Liam, she said, stopping just outside her dorm. She turned to face me. Do you still like Chloe Evans? Her eyes were wide with a hope that was so fragile it hurt to look at. I froze. Chloe. After the revelation about Sophia, her name felt like it belonged to another lifetime. The chaos of the last 2 years, the pain that had felt so monumental, suddenly seemed insignificant next to the simple words. It's me, Sophie. I looked into Sophia's eyes and shook my head, my voice firm. No, I don't. It wasn't a lie to make her feel better. In that single, clarifying moment, I knew it was true. That crush was finally, truly over. Not because Chloe had gotten a boyfriend, but because I had just found something infinitely more precious. Sophia's face lit up. She broke into a genuine, radiant smile. "So, Liam," she said, stepping a little closer, her voice barely a whisper, "is it okay if I try to win you over?" Sophia's directness caught me completely off guard. I looked into her bright eyes, which were filled with a sincerity and determination that left me speechless. "Win me over?" The phrase made my heart race and my face flush. Before I could form a coherent sentence, she took a shy step back, just like she used to as a kid, and waved her hands. I was just asking. You don't have to answer now. I'm gonna go." And with that, she turned and darted into her dorm like a startled deer. I stood there for a long moment, touching my own hot cheek, and then I laughed. That girl. From that day on, the roles were completely reversed. I stopped avoiding her and started seeking her out. I learned that she had morning runs on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I learned that she liked to study in Section E on the third floor of the library. I learned that she hated spicy food, but would order a mild ramen bowl just to eat with me, fanning her mouth and sticking her tongue out. I started bringing her coffee in the mornings. I started waiting for her outside the library at night to walk her back to her dorm. To everyone else on campus, our relationship became an open secret. One afternoon, Sophia and I were eating lunch in the hub when Chloe walked in with her new boyfriend. It was the first time I'd seen her face to face since the Instagram post. Honestly, my heart didn't even flutter. She was still beautiful, but the halo I used to see around her was gone. She was just another pretty girl. Chloe saw us too. Her eyes flickered between me and Sophia before settling on me. Her boyfriend gave me a polite nod. I smiled back easily, then took Sophia's tray and found us an empty table. I could feel Chloe's eyes on my back. "Is that Chloe Evans?" Sophia whispered, a hint of nerves in her voice. "Yeah," I said, handing her a fork and casually stealing the bell peppers she hated from her plate onto mine. "She's in my department. We don't really know each other." It was the truth. I saw Sophia's lips curve into a smile as she looked down at her food. Chloe and her boyfriend sat at a table diagonally behind us. I could hear her roommate, Tiffany, who was with them, talking just loud enough for us to hear. "See, Chloe? Look at Liam. Already moved on with that freshman. Guess he wasn't so devoted to you after all." Chloe was silent. "That Sophia girl is something else, though," Tiffany continued. "She had him wrapped around her finger in, what, a few weeks? I heard he was practically catatonic over you. Amazing what a new face can do." I frowned, my temper starting to rise. But Sophia just tugged on my sleeve and shook her head, telling me to ignore it. I looked at her, trying to pretend it didn't bother her, and an impulse took over. I put down my fork, picked up a piece of beef from my own stroganoff, and under the curious eyes of the people around us, placed it on her plate. "Eat more," I said, my voice loud enough for the nearby tables to hear. "You're getting too thin." Sophia froze, her cheeks instantly turning a deep shade of crimson. I just met the shocked, gossipy stares from everyone around us with a calm smile for her. I wanted everyone to know Sophia was with me. No one got to talk about her. No one got to bother her. Not even a girl I used to think I loved. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Chloe's face tighten. She took 2 more quick bites of her food, then grabbed her boyfriend's arm and left. A silent battle, one without a single shot fired. "Liam, you—" Sophia whispered, her face still bright red. "What was that?" "Having your back," I said matter-of-factly. "Nobody messes with my girl." "Who? Who's your girl?" she mumbled, her voice as quiet as a mosquito's buzz. I grinned, loving the way she got flustered. "Oh, she's not. In that case, I'll just take this beef BA." Before I could finish, she snatched a piece of meat with her fork and popped it in her mouth, glaring at me with her cheeks puffed out like a defensive chipmunk. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. The sun was streaming through the windows, and even the noise of the dining hall seemed cheerful. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the last few months with Sophia and the hazy memories from 6 years ago. I found myself wondering what it must have been like for her before I knew. What was going through her head during all those chance encounters, all those times she helped me, thinking I was just some stranger. The next day, for the first time in my college career, I skipped a class. I went straight to the law school building. I had to see her, right now. I didn't text her. I just stood outside like an idiot and waited. Nearly 2 hours later, the bell rang, and students began pouring out. I spotted her instantly in the crowd. She was looking down, walking distractedly, and almost bumped into someone. Sophie, I called out. Her head snapped up, her face a mask of surprise. Liam, what are you doing here? Don't you have class? I missed you, I said simply. I took her hand and led her to a more private spot by the side of the building. Her hand was cold, so I wrapped both of mine around it. What's wrong? You looked out of it. She avoided my eyes. And nothing. I just didn't sleep well last night. I knew she was hiding something. After a little more prodding, she reluctantly pulled a small notebook from her bag and handed it to me. Don't laugh at me, she whispered. I opened it curiously. It was a diary. The handwriting was neat, the entries chronicling her life since the start of the semester. September 1 SD. Sunny, I made it to Northwood. Liam, I'm finally in your city, breathing the same air as you. The campus is so big and beautiful, but I looked all day and didn't see you. I hope you're okay. September 10 TH. Cloudy with rain. I saw you today. In the rain. You looked so sad, even sadder than I imagined. You're so silly. Why would you just stand there and get soaked? I gave you my umbrella. I ran away so fast because I was afraid you'd chase after me and ask who I was. You've gotten thinner, Liam. September 15 TH. Sunny, I saw you in the library today. You sat right across from me, but you didn't seem to recognize me. I guess it makes sense. It's been 6 years. I've changed so much. It's okay. Just being able to see you like this is enough. October 8 TH. Cloudy. Everyone is talking about you and that other girl. Liam, you're such a good person. Why doesn't she like you? I wish I could just tell you that someone has always been standing right behind you. The last entry was from the day before. November 15 TH. Sunny, he put food on my plate in the dining hall today. He said he was having my back. My heart is beating so fast. Liam, do you think? You might like me a little bit too? But I'm also scared. I'm scared this is just a rebound, or that you just feel like you owe me something for being your long-lost little sister. What should I do? My eyes burned. This whole time, in corners I couldn't see, this sweet, silly girl had been carrying so much uncertainty for my sake. Her caution, her anxiety, it all stemmed from a love she had held onto for 6 years, a love that was both humble and fierce. I closed the diary and pulled her into a hug, burying my face in the crook of her neck. You're an idiot, I whispered, my voice rough. It's not a rebound. It's not pity. Sophia, I like you. The girl in my arms went rigid for a second, then began to tremble. I felt the warm dampness of her tears soaking through my shirt. That afternoon, we skipped all our classes and went to the old suburban neighborhood where we used to live. It was run down now, the paint peeling on our old apartment building. We found a little park where we used to play. The slide was rusted and only one side of the swing set remained. We sat on a park bench for hours, talking about all the stupid things we did as kids. I reminded her of the time she had a full-blown meltdown because I wouldn't share my ice cream cone, and she reminded me of the time I tried to steal a bird's egg and got chased by an angry robin. We laughed until our sides hurt, and for a little while, it felt like we were back in that carefree summer 6 years ago. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over everything, I turned and looked at her profile. Sophie, I said softly, will you be my girlfriend? This time, I didn't give her a chance to run. Sophia became my girlfriend. The news spread across Northwood even faster than the first round of rumors. This time, the comments on the confessions page were a lot nicer. I knew it. I shipped them so hard. My new OTP. Childhood friends to lovers? Is this a movie? I'm dying. This is so cute. I'm so jealous. Why don't I have a hot next-door neighbor to fall in love with? Of course, there were still some bitter comments, especially from the law school. Sophia was at the top of her class, and she had a lot of admirers, some from wealthy, powerful families. I was just a CS major. I didn't really cross paths with them until I started picking Sophia up from her classes. Then I started noticing the glares. The most obvious one came from a guy named Brandon Price. He was the president of the Law School Student Association, a big, imposing guy who, I'd heard, came from a family of high-powered lawyers. The definition of a trust fund kid. He'd been pursuing Sophia relentlessly since day one. I wasn't too worried about it. I trusted Sophia. Until that night. I was waiting for her outside the law building like usual, when I saw Brandon cornering her with a giant bouquet of roses, a crowd of his friends cheering him on. Sophia, I've liked you for a long time. Be my girlfriend. Brandon's voice boomed, drawing even more attention. Sophia looked trapped. She took a step back, her brow furrowed. Brandon, I've told you before. I have a boyfriend. I know, that CS guy Liam, right? Brandon scoffed. What's he got that I don't? Sophia, if you're with me, I can give you the best future. My family can help you with your career, with anything you want. What can he give you? A murmur went through the crowd. I clenched my fists about to step in, but Sophia spoke first. He can give me something you can't, she said, her voice quiet but firm. Now, please move. My boyfriend is waiting for me. Brandon's face darkened. He clearly wasn't used to being rejected so publicly. He didn't move. I'd seen enough. I pushed through the crowd, walked straight up to them, and pulled Sophia behind me. I stared Brandon down. You heard her. Move. He looked at me, surprised for a second, then let out a contemptuous laugh. So you're Liam? Huh. I was expecting more. Listen, kid, I'd back off if I were you. Sophia is way out of your league. Whether she's in my league or not is none of your business. I shot back, not breaking eye contact. And stay away from my girlfriend. With that, I took Sophia's hand and turned to leave. Hey, Brandon yelled behind me. I ignored him to squeeze Sophia's hand tighter. Carter! I heard him shout, his voice laced with fury. This isn't over. We were a good distance away before Sophia stopped and looked at me, her eyes filled with worry. Liam, are you okay? That guy, he can be a little unhinged. I shook my head and looked at her pale face. I was half annoyed, half amused. I reached out and squeezed her cheek gently. You're the one I should be asking. How does it feel to get a dramatic public confession of love? You're impossible, she said, swatting my arm playfully. It was so stressful. Looking at her, my anger melted away. I pulled her into a tight hug and whispered in her ear, Sophie, don't worry. If anything like this ever happens again, you tell me. I'll handle it. Okay, she mumbled into my chest. After a moment, she tilted her head back, her eyes sparkling. You know, you were really cool back there, pulling me away in front of all those people. I laughed and leaned down to kiss her. Oh yeah? I could be even cooler. Want to see? Under the lamplight of a law school building, our two shadows stretched into one. And in that moment, I knew, with absolute certainty, that I was in love with the girl who had come all this way just for me. The girl who had healed my entire world. That weekend, I took Sophia home. My mom opened the door, saw Sophia standing behind me, and froze for a few seconds before her face broke into a massive grin. Sophie? Is that really you, Sophie? Oh my goodness, look at you. All grown up and so beautiful. I almost didn't recognize you. My dad came out from the kitchen, and his jaw dropped too. Sophia was shy, but she greeted them politely. Hi, Mr. and Mrs. Carter. Come in, come in. My mom pulled her inside, looking her up and down, showering her with compliments. You've gotten so lovely, prettier than any of those movie stars on TV. That afternoon, my mom cooked a feast, and nearly every dish was one of Sophia's childhood favorites. At the table, she kept piling food on Sophia's plate, asking her how she'd been all these years, if she was happy. My dad, who was usually quiet, just watched Sophia with a look of pure fondness and approval. I was completely ignored, like I was the guest. After lunch, my mom pulled out old photo albums to show Sophia, and my dad called me out to the back porch. You did good, kid, he said. Offer me a cigarette. I declined. He lit his own and blew a puff of smoke into the evening air. You brought a good one home. I grinned. It wasn't a kidnapping, Dad. It was mutual. All right, wise guy, he said, clapping me on the shoulder. Sophie's a wonderful girl. Don't you ever hurt her. Your mom and I can both see how much she cares about you. You were kind of a mess before. It's good to have someone looking out for you. I nodded, a warmth spreading through my chest. Getting my parents' blessing was something I'd expected, but it still made me incredibly happy. On the drive back to campus, Sophia was quiet. What's wrong? I asked. Was it too much? No, she said, shaking her head. She turned to me, her expression serious. Liam, your parents are amazing. I felt like I was a kid again. Her eyes were a little red. I knew her parents traveled a lot for work, and that she'd grown up being very independent. My family, I realized, represented a warmth she'd been missing. I reached over and took her hand, my heart aching for her. Hey, this is your home too from now on. Our life together became a sweet, comfortable routine. We'd study together in the library, me writing code, her poring over case law. We wouldn't talk much, but just looking up and seeing her, there was the most reassuring feeling in the world. When she was cramming for finals, I'd bring her late-night lattes and snacks. When I was stressing over a project, she'd just sit with me quietly, handing me a glass of water or giving me an encouraging hug. Our love wasn't loud or dramatic. It grew stronger in the quiet moments. One day, we were talking about the past, and I finally asked her about Chloe. Sophie, be honest. When you first came here and saw me, with her, did it hurt? She was organizing a mess on my desk, and her hands paused. She turned to face me, her expression calm. Of course it did. I kept thinking, if only I'd come back sooner, or if only I'd been brave enough to tell you who I was right away. She gave me a small, accepting smile. But it doesn't matter anymore. Liam, everyone has a past. Liking her was part of your past. I just want to be your present and your future. She walked over, stood on her toes, and gave me a soft kiss. I wasn't there for your past, she whispered against my lips. But I'm here for the rest of your life. In that moment, the very last shadow in my heart disappeared for good. Time flew. Suddenly, we were seniors. I was buried in my capstone project and applying for internships, while Sophia was deep in prep for her LSATs. We saw each other less, but our nightly video calls became a sacred ritual. Liam, I got the top score on my practice exam again today, she'd announce, holding a piece of paper up to the camera like a kid showing off a good report card. That's my girl, I'd say, my voice full of pride. You're the smartest person I know. Once I'm done with this project, I'm taking you out for the best steak in town to celebrate. Deal, she grinned. Oh, by the way, Friday is my birthday. Are you going to be free? My heart skipped a beat. Of course I remembered. I put on my best, overworked and stressed expression. Oh man, Friday. I think I have to work late. The deadline for this project is killer. I could see the disappointment cloud her face, but she forced a smile. Oh, okay, no problem. Work is more important. We can celebrate some other time. Okay, I'll make it up to you. I ended the call, a massive grin spreading across my face. On Friday, I took the day off. I ordered her favorite red velvet cake, bought a huge bouquet of sunflowers, and went to the old park where we'd had our first real date. I set everything up on the bench, then sent her a simple text. I'm at our spot. Come meet me. Half an hour later, Sophia came running into the park, out of breath. When she saw the cake, the flowers, and me standing there, she froze. I thought you were working late. Her eyes were already red. I lied, I said, walking over and handing her the flowers. Happy birthday, my girl. She took the bouquet, and the tears finally came. She threw her arms around me and buried her face in my chest, half crying, half laughing. Liam Carter, I hate you. I just held her, letting her wipe her tears, and snot all over my new shirt, my heart so full it felt like it was going to burst. That night, after dinner, we were walking back to campus. A light rain started to fall, just like the day we first met. I opened my umbrella and pulled her close. It was the same pale blue one she'd given me. I kept it all this time. Sophie, I said, looking down at her. Do you remember the first time we really met? Of course, she said, tilting her head back to look at me, her eyes shining in the lamplight. You looked like a sad little puppy that the whole world had abandoned. I laughed. And now? Now, she considered for a moment, then stood on her toes and whispered in my ear. Now you're my whole world. The words hit me with the force of a physical blow. I stopped walking and turned to face her, looking deep into her eyes. Sophia, I said, my voice thick with emotion. 6 years ago, you were like a pebble tossed into the still pond of my life, making ripples before you disappeared. Then, 6 years later, when I had hit rock bottom, you came back like a bolt of lightning, chasing away all my darkness and saving my entire world. The patter of the rain was a soft rhythm around us. I lowered my head and kissed her cool lips. Thank you, I murmured against her mouth, for loving me for so long. And thank you for teaching me how to love back. My next door neighbor, my campus legend, my once and future, my everything. And